Welcome to Writer's Therapy. Some people write therapeutically. Writers need therapy after writing.
Hi, Marty.
Hi, Kate.
How you doing?
I'm good. Do you know that I have to fight an urge every single time I say hi to you not to be like my weird, creepy self? Because I want to be like, hello, Kate. Like...
You know, that would be the perfect intro. Just you try to be as creepy as possible.
Oh, man. I've got some good ones. You heard me speak in my deep voice last week. Hello.
Ooh, very sexy.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I know. You are 16. Like the creepiest song I could think of. Side note, I don't own the rights to that song.
Oh, okay. I'll cut it. Or do you think if it's unrecognizable as the song?
Hey, come on.
Copyright?
That was musical genius right there.
Oh, yeah. It's a remix.
Remix. I'm particularly weird tonight.
You know,
okay.
After what your story about Jude, I think.
My gosh. She's so cute. So her booster seat doesn't have boosters. It's a big disappointment in this household. But also while Andrew was installing her non-booster seat, her boosted booster seat, it's just me and the kids inside, and she has this like little tile thing that's connected. I didn't know connected by a string, and you know she's had it for like 2 years now, and she plays with it, and it's her little snake that goes all over the place with her. Like really, honestly, this toy is
okay. For a moment,
it's pretty important.
Had a pet tile. I was like, oh, no, that's new.
No. But she does treat this little tile-y, it's called Magic Snake, is what the toy is. And it broke. And so the poor little girl, she is just like the most deep grief. And she's like trying to put it back together. Really sad. And I'm like, this is a good opportunity for her to, you know, realize that things are finite and this and that. And she's so sad. I'm like, I'll just order you a new one. So, you know, not Mother of the Year material here, but she feels better about it. So
learning
I don't know.
Mortality through string.
Well, okay. In my defense, we have actually lost a dog that we do talk about all the time. So maybe we don't have to learn about it with toys if we don't have to learn about it with toys. I don't know. Whatever. Don't at me. I don't care. But you and I were going to talk about, because I was listening to Spa Girls podcast.
Okay.
And their October 5th episode, 312, what to do when you're stuck in a creative rut. And I really liked their guest that they had on there. Of course, I don't remember his name. I remember all of that, but not his name. Ryan Collins, looks like. He was talking about how we like don't wait for creativity and the muse to show up to like get the writing done. We have to show up.
Yeah.
And just do it.
I feel like there's such a misconception about writers, like that you wait for inspiration and you only work when there's inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just...
Oh, and I think that's like artists in general.
Yeah,
like
artists in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's such the typical image of the writer, especially like when you look to media, like movies or TV, and you know, you've always got the writer who just can't start this project yet because inspiration hasn't struck.
Or they're stuck in a project and all of a sudden they're just staring off into the distance and they're completely unconnected with the modern, like the world around them, and they're just so absorbed in the breakthrough they're having in their story.
Yeah,
right?
Like it's literally always like, you know, in murder mysteries when the detective puts those final two clues together that makes the whole thing make sense. Like in a murder mystery, I'll dig it because I am like, that's a legit moment with puzzles. And like while writing is like a puzzle, a lot of it isn't like a puzzle.
Okay, but I also know that like when my brain is like, oh crap, that's what should happen, and Andrew's talking to me, I do know on some levels, like Andrew's talking to me, I need to focus back in the here and now, but my brain is still going through. Like I know I'm being an asshole right? I'm not so disconnected from the world to know that, like, I am distracted in this moment.
You could be having a conversation with anyone and then be like, oh God, I left the stove on at home. And then,
that's
you know, completely tune them out. It's, I'm having a realization about something. But you don't, like, fall into a literal world of, or, like, not literal, but, like, you don't become
at least I don't.
absorbed. I don't. I'm not going to say nobody does.
Yeah, but I don't know any. And I'm, you know, I don't know every writer, but I know a couple.
I know, like, a handful of people who write.
And for the most part, they're just people who write. You know, again, it's like that romanticizing of, like, the artist.
Yeah.
And, like, these people are just people.
I'm gonna be real. I really hate whenever I read a book or watch a movie and the character is a writer.
Really?
Oh, I hate it because I, like, you know, especially if they... Okay, I don't hate it if they're a writer. I hate it if they show us something they've written and then the movie tries, or book or whatever, frames this piece of writing that they're reading out loud to you, or you have to read it through the, you know, whether it's a speech or a poem or something. The movie frames it like it's this life-altering, monumental, genius piece of work when it's like... Okay, you can say anything wistfully, it'll sound kind of genius-y to anyone who's not really paying attention.
I'm just thinking of, like, a couple of my preferred... There's a couple of books that I like that have writers in it, but typically, like, in Fangirl, I really loved how she talked about writing. Like, I distinctly remember an imagery. I'm not going to be able to say the language the way that Rainbow Rowell... Sorry, it's the way I have to say her name. The way that she wrote it. But it was like this image of, like, sometimes the words were painstaking, right? Just like a click and a click and a click.
Okay, but, like, that's clearly...
Well, but like then she continued, and she's like, and sometimes the words are like running down a hill you can't keep up with. And there's just, your hands cannot get them on page fast enough. So I really enjoyed the way she talked about writing in that book, and like how relatable that idea was.
That feels like very true to the experience of writing, though. It's not trying to be particularly deep. It's just, it's good imagery paired with an actual experience.
Yes, exactly. And then also, she did include some passages in the writing, like in the book as well, of the character's fanfic she was working on, and also a short story she wrote at the end. I felt that the voices different enough from, like, the voice of the story that it did a nice standout. And I definitely see what you're saying about, like, this is a profound piece of writing that this person is sharing. I did not get that impression from that story. And then, like, Beach Read, she's a writer too, and I really liked how she talked about writing as well. But there really wasn't much of her actual writing in the story.
Well, so I did like Beach Read.
Yeah.
And I think part of it was because we never really got to read anything either of them wrote.
We just knew what it was about.
And also, it didn't really frame either of them like they were geniuses, you know? It kind of really explored that, how, I published one book and now I don't know how to do it again. I feel like I've run out of inspiration in my genre, or like that kind of, the real fears of being a writer.
And then also the way they perceived the other person's writing was more important than the way they perceived their own writing, sort of thing.
Exactly.
Like, was more positive than the way they perceived their own writing.
Yeah, I mean, they were pretty antagonistic about how they each perceived each other's genre and how they approached writing, but because I think the feelings weren't all just, oh my god, you're so good at this, you're such a genius, and I'm just supposed to believe that this is good. Like, I also feel this way about painters when they're painter characters.
Now I can't think of a single painter character I've read.
Well, so,
other than, like, the snippets in The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
So I read Talia Hibbert's,
oh, right, Chloe.
What was it called? Chloe Brown.
Yeah.
And I actually did like a bit the way that she described him, because she never really tried to describe the painting. She really focused most of her attention on the the guy, what's his name, Red, while he was painting. And I mean, I did enjoy the whole him standing in front of the window shirtless, painting passionately.
Of course you did. She knew what she was doing. Talia Hibbert's a gem.
But it's also like the painting, when she did describe it, it was in very abstract, just kind of talking about the visceralness of the colors and the way they paired together instead of really trying to tell you what the image was.
Yeah.
But like, and see, this is the only time I'll say I didn't like anything by Tessa Dare. So, and it's not that I didn't like the book. I loved the book, but I didn't like the way that the character in Maddie from When a Scot Ties the Knot, she's an artist. She draws with pencils mainly and ink, I think.
I think so too.
But there's this line where she says, I draw the light around the creature. I don't draw the creature itself. And because like when you do art, like it's that the way you think about it is not like that at all. If I met someone like that, I think they would be incomprehensible to me on like a human level. It'd be like, who the fuck? You're from another planet.
You do not compute. Yeah, I like only vaguely remember that like passage, but it seems to fit the way artists are depicted, right? Like they see the faces, not the vase sort of thing. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I don't get what that, like, it's just, we had like planned things we were going to talk about, and I'm like dragging us off the beaten path.
I mean, we always go tangential. Anyway.
Quick, into this cul-de-sac. Oh, it's a dead end.
Yeah, no joke. Like have our conversations. Oh,
that should be our title. The dead end.
Into the dead end. Yes.
Into the dead end.
You are here for the birth of it. One listener. That one person that's listened to all of these. They're pretty excited we finally got a title. Into the dead end.
Oh no, we need to like put a pin in that and be like, do we even like it tomorrow?
Okay, fine, listener. We're going to recheck. Okay. But like, I think it's okay. I think if we actually do have listener, then they're going to be used to us doing our tangents, and like that's gonna be part of the conversation and the listening. So, because really, you and I don't stay on a straight line very well anyway.
Oh no, not at all. No.
That could be another, like, something to do with, like, a crooked line or something.
Writing crooked lines.
Ooh.
Okay. I like that a little bit better, but I think it still needs some workshop.
I'm going to text both of these to us. I guess we do have them recorded anyway.
Oh, no, we'll forget about them. We gotta put them on
but somewhere around 14
paper.
Minutes, we say it. But okay.
Listen to the whole thing to find it?
I mean, I know we don't wish that upon anybody. The way you said that was pretty amazing. Okay, so another point we were planning on talking about into this perfect segue.
Okay. Things we meant to talk about.
I wanted to talk about time and another idea that I think even I experienced from listening to other writers, professional writers on like podcasts and such, is how they talk about time and getting the work done and this and that. And like, I distinctly remember listening to an author talk about how she and her friends would do like hour-long sprints. And I'm like, God, if I could sit and write for a whole hour straight, like that'd be amazing. Right? Like, and like,
God,
sometimes
I can't imagine that.
Yeah. Like, sometimes I have an hour, but my attention span doesn't work that way to be able to sit and write for an hour at a time. And so then they'll take like a 10-minute break and then go in for another hour. And it's like, my brain just doesn't do that. Like I've had to condition it to focus in small spurts of time because that's what I typically have available to me. So between like having a job and 2 kids, I just don't have huge chunks of time. And so I have to kind of cut time out wherever I can. So a lot of times I'll wake up early and I'll get like, it's easier for me to do administrative things at that time. So it's easier for me to think about like writing my newsletter, and it's easier for me to look at editing in the morning and things that like I don't have to create the story or prose. But then I typically have, 2 hours midday to get writing, and also usually like my work for my livelihood done. And like that's it. And so I don't know, sometimes I feel I have a hard time knowing the limitations of my schedule when I see other people being able to do things and being able to accomplish more writing than I can, and like stuff like that. And it's just, the structure of our lives are different. And yeah. So that's kind of my thoughts and my issues there.
I think like whenever I hear you like, so I don't have kids and I don't have a full-time job or even a part-time. I have freelance, which is very, very squishy when it comes to time management.
Squishy.
I couldn't think of a good word. I was like, I'm not going to say timey-wimey or whatever the Doctor Who thing is. Because when they try to describe how like the science works, they go timey-wimey, what's it, or something. I used to think it was cool, but then my brother got into it. And now it's not allowed to be cool.
No, brothers ruin everything.
He has a TARDIS-shaped teapot.
Part of me loves that.
I know, it's like...
Because it's so British.
Oh, and he loves tea. He's like, I'm not gonna dump on my brother. I'm gonna...
The Doctor Who fandom just really, like, found him, this is a perfect fit. Like, sort of thing.
Yeah, but...
But okay, so squishy time.
So squishy, it's very malleable. Really the only thing I try to do is reply to emails in a timely manner, which I'm not even very good at. I have an email.
What do you think is timely?
Well, I have an email that's been sitting, it says 6 days ago, and I meant to reply to this guy in better than a week.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's 6 days. You can still reply.
Yeah, I can.
That's
not a job thing. That was like a school thing.
Yeah. I think that if you're replying to, now gathered, like, my work emails, like, I reply within 24 hours. I try to make it no more than 12 hours, right?
Yeah. No, definitely. When it comes to, like, a commission or a job, I try to, if not within a couple of hours, within a 24-hour period.
Absolutely. Yeah, dude, you're doing great. That's perfect. Like, yeah.
But I also, you can send me an email and I'll see it the minute that you send it. Or like within 3 minutes. And I'll sit there for the next hour trying to compose something because I'm so bad at the human interaction part.
Good for you, because a lot of times I'll reply right away and then I will walk away and I'm like, I really should have thought about that reply more, because now I'm going to send them like 2 or 3 emails to try to clarify my statement that I could have just like let it rest.
See, I go, okay, you're overthinking it. You just need to say it and not worry about it being like too blunt. Because like I'm always with strangers, it's always the who aren't familiar with like my routine of how like just the timing and order of how I do things as an artist. Getting to the part where I say, okay, this is the part where you pay me is always the hardest part. It's very easy to be like, okay, this is the part where you send me all the reference pictures that you feel like. This is where you send me your Pinterest board. This is where you say, I don't like this.
I have to say, as a customer and also someone who has had to get paid for like work, I am most comfortable stating at the beginning, like, this is the monetary commitment, or even like half is due up front. And then the conversation's already been had and the expectations already set. And then like me personally in that position, once the job's done, I'll just send the money, right? There might be someone that you have to like tell, like, hey, remember our conversation before, or see email, or something along those lines. But the expectations already been set, and it makes me more comfortable bringing it up. Does that make sense?
It does, and I have been working on something like that, where at the beginning when I write my invoice and I send it to them, I make it clear in the invoice that you receive the final product, the high resolution, formatted, whatever.
You give it to them before?
After payment.
At pay. Okay, cool.
But you get to see it before you pay, but you get a watermarked, low-resolution version. Does that make sense? Like, it's got the little lines across it that
absolutely
like, are a pain to remove. For someone else to remove. I just have them on a layer. Okay, we are so off topic.
Yeah, we are so off topic.
Here, let me go into like an in-depth version of how I do my commissions. Okay, so...
But no, I totally relate to, like, that being an uncomfortable conversation.
Oh, yeah. It's the worst part.
It's so weird with how capitalist our society is that we feel uncomfortable asking for money for the job we do. Right?
No,
Isn't that bizarre?
Totally on purpose. You know, capitalism doesn't want you to get paid. It wants to make you do free labor.
That's so messed
This
up.
is another podcast. Marty and Kate go turn
leftist. Yeah, exactly.
We discuss the pros and cons of Marxism at its to the letter.
I'm going to have to do some reading before we start that podcast.
Oh yeah, same.
But okay, so we were talking about time.
And so when we had the discussion where it really felt like that was going to be the conversation we should have been recording then.
That really was. Yeah, we've talked about this before.
We planned it out.
Were so fluid in our conversation and quite frankly on task. I think part of the problem is I sit down during these conversations with you and I'm much better at talking when I'm in motion.
See, that conversation, I was laying down and I had a cat on my chest. Mm-hmm. She is next to me, leg raised in the air, licking her something. Can't tell what.
People are listening, Lydia.
They can hear
Person is listening, Lydia.
Noises.
But okay, so talk to me about time again.
Okay, so in the conversation we were having, it's a little tangential, but like it made me think back to high school when, because you were talking about using the little moments to think about your story.
Our downtime.
Thinking is such a huge part of writing, even though you're not physically typing or writing words. You are organizing your story, you're thinking, which goes uncredited because it's invisible work. And you were talking about fitting thinking in because it's the most malleable part. You know, if you're doing the grocery shopping and you've got your kids in the grocery cart and they're not running off somewhere, then you can probably just do a bunch of the thinking while walking from aisle to aisle. Or, I don't know. Folding laundry
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If it's great podcast listen time, then it's also great just thinking time.
Absolutely.
Well, so like,
which is another struggle with having a 5-year-old is like,
because she's
interrupting my thoughts all the time interrupting my thoughts. She's amazing. She's got thoughts, and I want to hear them. I really do, but like, girl, I gotta think through some things. Like my brain can't do everything.
Well, it's just so like in high school, I really felt like it was something that I could not turn off, and maybe I couldn't because I just didn't want to. But it was like, I was constantly thinking about my stories. I had nothing else going on. I did not have a lot of friends, but so I wasn't really caught up in the whole dynamics between people. I was just thinking about the dynamics between these imaginary people. But like, I would go from classroom to classroom and it'd be like, maybe I'll take a break and I will draw in this class. And in the next class, I'm going to take out my other notebook and I'm going to write some notes and outline this story. I'm going to write up a scene or put some dialogue that I want to. And I have all these notebooks of my incredibly tiny handwriting.
I remember having classes that, I would just handwrite stories through. Because I've never been an outliner. And so I would just handwrite these stories out. And like, I get to this class that was, let's say it was third period. And every third period, I just sit down and write. And I don't know what the class was supposed to be because that wasn't my concern. I was just sitting down and writing.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's like, I had something, it was just, it never stopped, and I didn't really think of it as, oh, here's all my thinking time, and here's all my writing time, because I just kind of did it, I squeezed it into every little moment that I wasn't, paying attention in school, because a lot of it wasn't paying attention. But like, so now, I was kind of having these weird, depressing thoughts about my situation in writing, and I have been really having a hard time coming around to treating myself kindly in terms of writing. Like, I've been interviewing for a job, and I've been doing a lot of commissions lately, and a lot of free covers for people in the who were in the Monster Love
Monster Anthology. Yeah.
And then my grandma died and I had to spend a week in Connecticut for the funeral. And so I'm like, why haven't I been really attached to any of my stories lately? Am I never going to feel that kind of fervor about my own stories anymore? Am I not going to be obsessed with my characters and constantly thinking about, ooh, then this could happen? So I was kind of depressed about it.
Yeah. That sounds...
And it kind of, a lot of it was because I noticed, hey, I'm not thinking about this outline when I'm going to bed. Because, like, you know, you lay down in bed and your brain's just chugging away.
Oh, yeah. That's a lot of times how I fall asleep is because it's the quietest time for my brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you come to any sort of resolution about these thoughts? Or are you still just kind of in turmoil about it?
I'm still in a place where I'm having a lot of anxiety, just kind of, I want to say baseless, because I cannot put a singular, you know.
There's no one thing.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a lot of anxiety. And you know what it is? It probably is. I've just been listening to nonstop murder podcasts and playing some really violent video games. Which are a little bit above what I usually do. So I'm like, maybe it's just because I'm surrounding myself with all this negative media.
Our brains are really impressive and they do soak up a lot. So I don't know if, you know, stepping away from those things is a possibility, but also, dude, you had a lot going on and you've had your life in this level of limbo too, where like you've been waiting for so-and-so to get back with you and like, will it go this way? Will it go that way? You know, it's just, I think it's okay for you to be like, this is just a whole new chapter for me. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? You know, I think that there is a level of like, in writing things, for me personally, in writing things, I have noticed I'm getting further and further away from like the enchanted feeling that I've had for things I've written in the past. But that, I'm sorry, I can hear my cat trying to get into the trash. But there's a hair rubber band around the handles because we're classy. And so it just keeps on opening and closing.
God, that reminds me of, like, you know, how bears can open car doors now. So, like,
what?
Oh, yeah, this is, like, a thing. If you go to, like, a state park or you camp anywhere that has bears in the area, they talk about you have to put the cooler in your car and then lock your car because bears can smell the food through the car and the cooler and they can open both. But they will do so by with a lot of clawing and scratching up your paint job. So
wow. Huh.
Also,
but
horses
I feel like
are very willing to ram their body against your trailer and try to tip your trailer over. I speak from experience.
Oh my effing God. They are giant effing squirrels. Like if a squirrel was that big, they would definitely knock your trailer over. Oh my God.
I've never had a squirrel that had been like rude to me about my food. I've had seagulls be very aggressive.
At the Grand Canyon, Andrew's dad bought a hot dog for his daughter, right?
No.
And a squirrel came up, grabbed the hot dog, like just eyeball to eyeball with his daughter, grabbed the hot dog and pulled it out of its bun.
God. I hope you want bread, honey.
Before she even like took a bite. And like, yeah, yoink. John's like, that was an $8 hot dog.
Of course, this is a exquisite Grand Canyon hot dog.
Absolutely. They're unlike any other hot dog in the world, you know? Yeah. But like, back to what we were talking about, like, I just think that it's really normal to get a little disenchanted with the process of writing.
Oh, yeah.
As you do it more and more, right? Because, like we were talking about before, you know more to look for. You can't just, like, willy-nilly write down, at least I can't, any thought and storyline and, you know, moment that you want. Because, for me personally, I'm thinking about what will satisfy the story and the reader. And a lot of times that's different than necessarily all the things I want to write. Because if it was me writing for me, it's just going to be a bunch of mopey, longing eyes at each other. And everyone tells me that's super angsty. So.
So I think next week we should really delve into what it means when you go through that. Is this going to satisfy a reader, and what that means to you?
Okay.
Because when you say that, you've said that a couple of times now, and I wonder, like, what is your, that it is the question for next week.
Okay.
not a right now question, but like,
when I think about writing for someone else, what am I writing?
Well, not necessarily write for someone else, but like, what does it mean? How does that criteria differ from your personal criteria? Or like, where does this criteria come from? I'm
resisting the urge to just start answering
it. Just write it down and write it down so we don't forget about it. Because I had a whole ass thought and I just lost it.
Of course. As thoughts do.
Yeah. Say one, lose the other.
So true. That's why I interrupt everybody all of the time.
Constantly. I have to speak or I'll lose it. I'm not being rude.
Oh, I'm absolutely being rude.
I'm gonna be rude.
That I might lose is more important than what you're currently saying, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus. I feel like such a monster every time I interrupt somebody. That is like the message that you're like telling people, but I cannot stop myself. Can't do it. Can't stop because I don't realize I've interrupted somebody until I'm halfway through what I was going to say. And it's been like a minute since they've spoken. I'm like, crap, I totally interrupted them. Like, I don't realize I'm doing it until like after the deed has been done.
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing it constantly to you. I have not noticed you do it to me once.
Oh,
I'm just like,
really?
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, because like when you're talking, I'm like, oh, I was interrupting. And so then I stop. But there's definitely times where you're talking and then I start and then I'm like, wait, pull it back.
It's only what I deserve. Don't worry about it. If you interrupt me, it means that I can interrupt you. It's okay.
Next podcast, it's going to be me talking the entire 30 minutes through the left ear and you talking the entire 30 minutes through the right ear. So listener,
good luck.
You need to hit play twice.
You're gonna need both earbuds in. Okay, so. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh, of course, then they could just listen with one earbud.
Yeah.
And then put the other one in and hear the other side of the conversation.
Double the views is what I'm saying.
That's probably should go do our other thing. Listener, thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah, thank you for listening to us interrupt each other. And
wait until next week to be continued.
Yeah, same bat time, same bat channel.
That's right.
I'm sorry, I love the Adam West, Burt Ward Batman.
Oh my gosh. It's so cute. One of my favorite moments, listener will let you go eventually. One of my favorite moments from my grandpa. He's really good at like arcade games. He's really good at everything, right?
Hey.
But he was playing an arcade game. I don't remember what. All these coins start falling out at him. And he looks at my Aunt Penny, his daughter, and goes, "Holy strawberries, Batman, we're in a jam!" Because that was the first thing that came to his mind. It would probably been like 30 years since he'd heard it on television. Holy strawberries, God. Batman, we're in a jam!
Oh, God.
It's one of my favorites.
Everything Burt Ward said on that show.
I know. So cute.
God, we're talking about like an 80-year-old show.
I know. And my grandpa, who's delightful. My dad is much more touch and go. My grandpa's everybody should like grandpa. So different dad. Not my dad's dad, but my mom's dad.
So I didn't really, Now, let's go.
Let's go. Let's let listener go.
All right. Bye, listener.
Bye, listener.